Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
We are getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Shadows whispered in the wires, hidden hands behind the throne, built their kingdom out of silence, chained the world they thought they owned. Silent codes and stolen stories, truth was buried out of sight, but in the quiet hearts were beating, waiting for the spark of light. They thought we'd never see the masks behind the screen, but the cracks began to bleed, and we began to dream. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving. We were lost but now unblinding, every whisper, every fighting, all converging, dark to light. We were ghosts inside their system, digital soldiers, quiet storms, turned the weapons of deception into signals to transform. Every lie became a beacon, every secret fed the flame. We're the chorus of the voiceless, calling out their hidden name. They thought we'd never know, but rivers find their flow, and seeds they tried to sow have grown and overflow. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving. We were lost but now unblinding, every whisper, every fighting, all converging, dark to light. Dark to light. No more kings behind the curtain, no more pawns inside their game. We are fire, we are certain we'll erase their hidden name. Every tower built on lies will crumble, every shadow forced to see the sun. We are many, we won't stumble, we are rising, we've begun. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Repill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there and having a fantastic beginning of their week. And it is Tuesday, June 30th. And tomorrow's July 1st. This weekend is July 4th. This weekend is the 250th anniversary, the birthday of this great nation, of this great country. I'm excited. This is my favorite holiday, by the way. This is more favorite than Christmas. Yes, it is. My voice is a little raspy today. I don't know. I wasn't yelling or screaming. Might have been from Gart, maybe. But man, I hope everybody's doing well. So Tuesday nights, few different things going on over the next few days. Tonight after this show at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time over on Badlands Media, DEFCON 0, the #1 show there on Tuesday nights on Rumble. So DEFCON 0 right after this with myself and Alpha Warrior over on Badlands. Tomorrow night, no show. No Daily Dose. I know. Maybe I'll play like a replay of the last few nights. People like that sometimes. So no show tomorrow night, and then Thursday night, regular routine. We'll have the Daily Dose and then the OG show. And OG show is going to be good this week. I think it's going to be really good. But so hopefully you guys are tuning into all those shows. I know so many shows to pay attention to and all these different channels and all this good stuff. Man, but you know why? Because sometimes we're over the target. Last few days I've been saying, hey, 6 fucking earthquakes over the last few days, 24-hour period, volcanoes erupting. I said, there's going to be a solar flare. There's going to be a massive solar flare, like an X-class solar flare. Oh, yeah, sure enough. NASA, the sun emitted a strong solar flare on June 30th, peaking at 4:50 p.m. Eastern Time. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory captured the image of the event, which was classified as a X1.1. Interesting. Don't know if it's heading towards Earth or not, but I think that's minor in comparison to what we're actually going to see. But called it. You got a solar flare. Just like that. And why do they always coincide about 7 to 10 days after earthquakes and volcanic eruptions? I'm not a scientist. I have a scientific mind. I have an inquisitive mind. But I want to know. I wish science would actually look at that. Like, does correlation equate causation? Maybe. I don't know on this one. Is the rise in the number of ice cream purchases in the beach in New Jersey correlated directly with the amount of shark attacks? Oh, that's crazy. Correlated, no causation. But this one, I believe there is. And I think that if you start going back in history, you'll start to see that there's a direct correlation between various geomagnetic activities, earthquakes, large storms, storm fronts, and volcanic eruptions and solar flares. So, can we expect a bigger solar flare? I think so. I think in the next few days, we'll probably see a larger X-class solar flare. And we'll see. I mean, is it going to hit Earth? I don't know. Maybe. We'll have to check it out. But I just love it. It was great to log in today and say, hey, I called that solar flare. I said a solar flare was going to happen. And it did. So, the Department of War's CTO today posted this nugget. And how many times before it's not a coincidence, right? I mean, that's what we have to keep on asking ourselves. Posted this nugget. The American warfighter always prevails at 2:06 p.m. And what does the timestamp for that? Can't wait for the green light. Teams on standby. Wonder what's going to happen. I think we're in the midst of it. I think that we're at that point where it's no holds barred, that we are about to see the smackdown come. And by the way, I wanted to say this. Everybody out there. Thank you to everybody who sent me emails and text messages teaching me how to say Joe Genova. I had it down. DeGenova. Joe DeGenova. It was funny. But Joe and his team over in the South District of Florida are absolutely getting ready to lay the smackdown. And then you have new grand juries forming in Manhattan through the DOJ. investigating various different NGOs. I don't know how long this is going to take. I hope that we see indictments coming before the midterms, but I think that we are going to see some fireworks. And I don't know if it's going to be Obama. I've been skeptical about this, but with Donald Trump on his whole communist threads the last few days, it appears that he is in focus. Today in the House of Representatives, the CIA, not the CIA, the MKUltra and mind control deliberations and debates. This is huge. And what did we learn? Nothing new, but it's not what we learned. It's what was confirmed. The conspiracy theorists were true.
For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you all for being here. I remembered when all the talk about MKUltra broke, and then they were talking about lawsuits, and there were lawsuits, and the CIA and the federal government said that this didn't exist, and then they came back and said, well, it does exist, and then, but we're not doing it anymore. I guess my question to y'all first is, which lie do we believe? Because, thank you. Obviously, there was an open bar before this thing started, so thank y'all. But
I love Tim Burchett. DeGenova, guys, I know how to say it. I'm just fucking around. Sometimes you gotta just play with people. Okay. Let's keep on going with this because there's a lot said in these videos here.
Recruited them anyways. In your research,
and this one
did you find direct documentation between paperclips?
Okay. Listen to this.
User Operation Paperclip brought over 1,600 German scientists into the United States government after World War II, including individuals who had conducted human experimentation in concentration camps. The CIA and military were aware of their backgrounds and recruited them anyways. In your research, did you find direct documentation between Paperclip scientists and the development of MKUltra's experimental protocols, specifically the use of mescaline hypnosis and sensory deprivation, which were techniques also documented at Dachau?
Absolutely. Kurt Blome, who was the chief of biological weapons development for the Nazi government, came to work for the CIA. So did Walter Schreiber, who was the Surgeon General of the Nazi Army. I can just tell a brief story. When I was researching my book, I found what I think might be the first secret CIA prison or black site. It's a nice chalet in Germany. And the guy who now owns it took me into the basement. He said these were the cells where the MKUltra officers, working side by side with Nazis, carried out those gruesome experiments, which were actually just continuations of the experiments that those Nazis had been conducting just a few years earlier right down the road.
Just for timeline and clarification, these experiments were happening after the Nuremberg trials, correct? So the CIA would have known that these were crimes against humanity.
I looked for an episode in which the Nuremberg doctrines were posted on the wall in some MKUltra or CIA office, and I was never able to find any indication that those Nuremberg principles ever were even consulted, much less obeyed.
So, talking about Operation Paperclip right there, and how the beginnings of MKUltra predate Project Artichoke, 1951, 1952. That they go all the way back to the OSS operating within Paperclip in Germany. That's pretty huge, actually. This is going to be an interesting one. And don't worry, I'm going to kind of break this down with what I understand and what I know about these topics here in a second, but I wanted to get through these various clips.
What are the possibilities that what we've learned in MKUltra, now that it has advanced so much to algorithms and the computer and getting to loners, that some of these loners could, through this just mass propagation of whatever you're doing, could cause someone to maybe take a shot at a president?
I know there's a lot of speculation out there about the Butler shooting, and I guess even the Charlie Kirk shooting. I just hate to speculate because I don't know. I have no firsthand knowledge whether those guys were programmed through radio waves or through their computer activity. So I would never hazard a guess, except to say what I've already said, that they developed means that we've never been told about many, many years ago, and I imagine they've evolved to be much more effective now. So
let me interrupt you one more time, and I apologize again. But don't you think that cast this broad net through these algorithms and other things, and maybe they don't know the exact person it's going to affect, but they know what type of person it's going to affect, and they know it's going to happen, and that way they can't predict when it's going to happen, but they think it will happen, and then that way they can sort of wash their hands of this whole thing and say, well, we didn't have anything to do with it, but in effect they really did, because they put this out there, and they continue to put it out there. To what other method you're talking about. Go ahead, guys. I'm sorry. Ma'am, if you want to jump in.
She's with NIH.
Okay. Doctor, go ahead.
It sounds to me like you're describing something like the Martin Luther King assassination. The FBI didn't carry it out, but it created such a climate, just denouncing King as the most dangerous man in America and putting out all this material about how he was helping communists, that they must have thought, it's going to filter down. Somebody will take action, and then we can say we didn't have anything to do with it.
And James Earl Ray was a third-rate thief. He made an incredible shot, 1 foot on a commode, 1 foot in a bathtub, leaning out of a window, basically. And the next day, or that afternoon, all the shrubbery was cut in front of the flop house he was staying in. There's a lot on that one that will never be discussed. I have some friends that were there, so I guess I'm on pretty close to firsthand knowledge, but
okay. By the way, it's pronounced Burchett, not Burchett. No E at the end. That's one I can pronounce because he corrected me live. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a connection between Operation Paperclip moving into MKUltra. And that makes a lot of sense because it was just a continuation of various different German mind control programs that they were already working on. City Gottlieb and all these guys, this is where they derived from. This is how Artichoke happened, and this is where... So you got to understand the classification system is like they have one kind of folder, and then there's subfolders underneath that, and it's kind of how the funding works. But that's where all these projects derive from. Now, what I find interesting is that the last part that we just listened to, Burchett just said, do you think that they can use a broad algorithm to get a shooter, to cause school shootings or false flags, to bring about chaos, terrorist events? You know, that's one thing that we never even talked about. Imagine what happens when you take the same tools that we've talked about on this show that Tim Burchett was just talking about right there. He was talking about something that I've talked about on this show for a very, very long time. We call it the egg profile that social media companies have on you, that the intelligence agencies have direct access to, that they can individually modify your algorithm specifically for you to basically market to you various different products with calls to actions when you become emotionally engaged, to click on that call of action. Well, that same thing, that same process works for mind control, for basically going out there and radicalizing someone or putting them into a deep depression to where then you can radicalize them. You utilize their social media feeds, you individualize their algorithm, and you direct them towards Discord groups, Telegram chats, or WhatsApp chats. And then once you get them in there, that's when further radicalization comes forth. Now, you can do that for school shooters. You can do that to emotionally disturbed kids and children, as well as radical liberals who are already mentally unstable, become shooters or Fort Hood shooters or these types of things. But now think about it in the context of radical Islamic terrorism. How do you radicalize some of these people? Is that being done to some of these groups to further radicalize them? It's a question that you have to ask. But within these discussions, I try to listen to most of it today. One of the questions did come about is, do you believe, Dr. Kinzer, that this is still active today? And he says that, well, if it was, they obviously wouldn't tell us and haven't told us. But my indications are that they most likely are still running it. Why waste hundreds of millions of dollars to develop these technologies 50 years ago and not use them? They use them today. They use them in different ways that we cannot even imagine. They use them on very large and broad scales. Those large and broad scales, they are through the internet. They are through publications and media and videos. They are through the mainstream media, or at least that's where they have been for a very long time. When you have Operation Mockingbird, various different news broadcasters and Hollywood celebrities being recruited by the Central Intelligence Agencies become dissemination agents. Do you not think that within those aspects of dissemination is manipulated information to make you believe a constructed narrative? Absolutely. This is the thing. It's all about keeping people on a constructed narrative. And if they deviate from that narrative, which way can you radicalize them to become useful for the agenda? So the White House task force to eliminate fraud today came out and said, we're sealing the deal tomorrow, and put out a top secret envelope on their X page. Now, this is the White House task force to eliminate fraud. I don't know what's in there, but I have a feeling this is something to do with NGOs. Now, why does Josh have a feeling that this is something to do with NGOs? Well, think about the constructed narrative. The Trump administration, they do something. They did it in the first administration. They've definitely done it in this administration. They've been way better at it in this last administration. And I call it seeding the narrative. And one of the things they do by seeding the narrative is they get people talking about various different topics prior to them happening. So they'll have people start talking about the Epstein files. They'll get the mainstream media and social media directly engaged. They'll get all different sides directly engaged into a conversation. And then they will begin dropping information pertaining to that changes the current public narrative that people knew and understood. A paradigm revelation. So what have we seen over the course of the last 2 weeks? We've seen Donald Trump come out and talk about the communist takeover of the United States of America. We had a communist win the mayoral race in New York City. We had a communist win the mayoral race in Washington, D.C. We've had many people within the administration coming out and talking about it's not socialism, it's communism. Then we have obviously the JFK speech that we talked about yesterday. Then we have the information pertaining to various different NGOs fundings. We went over that, was it last night, Monday night? We went over that whole, from the Tides and the Ford's Foundation directly into Neville Roy Singh to George Soros, all of this. We laid all of that out. That is a seeding of the narrative for something that's to come. We just find out yesterday that Neville Roy Singh is actually under federal investigation out of Manhattan with a federal subpoena that's deriving from a grand jury. So we're sealing the deal tomorrow. Could this be more information pertaining to NGOs and NGO corruption? I think that there's a good chance that that's exactly what that is. Hold on, I got to wet the whistle real quick. A little thirsty here. Yeah, my voice started getting rapsy, a little bit rapsy today. Wasn't screaming or crying or anything like that. But man. All right. Jump back into it. Oh, and my buddy Nate said, oh, you're live. Give Bitcoin Brad a shout out. Bitcoin Brad. Nate says, what's up, brother? Got to give shout outs when people want to give shout outs. Nate is the guy that does all of our intros for DEF CON and the OG show and the Daily Dose, and he's working on a new Daily Dose intro. So hopefully we get to see that here soon. I just saw a preview of it. It's pretty badass. I love it. Trump weighs in on the return to all-out war with Iran. Conversations with various different people in the National Security Council, as well as the executive branch's various different military team members, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane. The conversations have revolved around whether the U.S. should abandon negotiations and resume full-scale attacks against Iran or stick with diplomatic talks for now. And according to sources close to Donald Trump, you stick to the negotiations. Diplomacy is the main the main realm. So people are saying I'm glitching. Is it just them or is it all of you? So Mitchell Duke is the only one saying that we're glitching. Anybody else glitching? If it's just you, I would recommend refreshing. I know you've probably already done that, but gotta say it. Oh, Benjamin Netanyahu today. He says it in Hebrew. You don't want to hear that. But he says, I want to stop American aid. It's like welfare. I don't want it. Our economy is no longer a small economy. We can finance ourselves. See, he comes out saying like, hey, look, America, I agree with you. We don't want your $3.8 billion a year. We don't need it. And he's right on that. But he's saying that because he devised a new plan. And the new plan isn't, instead of taking $3.8 billion in aid from the United States of America each year, which makes them dependent upon the U.S. military's military-industrial complex. Instead, what Netanyahu had done is he went to Senate and he went to Congress and he worked with them to write variations within the National Defense Authorization Act, which frees up various parts of money to cross-collaborate U.S. and Israel's military-industrial complexes and intelligence services. Now, we've all heard about this, like, oh, Israel's going to have direct authority and control over our military. And that's not really what it says. But basically what it says in a nutshell is that the United States will basically be intertwined with the military-industrial complex of Israel and the military-industrial complex of the United States of America. In other words, they will cross-collaborate on various different projects to develop new technologies and bring those technologies to market. What that does is that's more economic for Israel than it is for the military-industrial complex here in the United States of America. What it does is it basically brings Israel into a larger, broader scale of market for its military complex and allows its developed technologies to flow through the U.S. military-industrial complex, be integrated into the U.S. and allies' military capabilities. Why is that a bad idea? Well, fuck, that's a massively bad idea. Number one is Israel spies on everybody already. You think I want an Israeli computer chip in my freaking missiles? No, because guess what? You'll never be able to fire those on Israel. I can guarantee you that much. No, I think it's a horrible idea. The other part of it, and this is a little bit more concerning in my perspective, is that there is a joint corroboration between Israel and the United States pertaining to Middle Eastern intelligence. And basically is that Israel is trying to say that, hey, if anything is going on in the Middle East, there has to be always a joint collaboration between U.S. and Israeli intelligence. And this also includes cyber and space and everything like that. What this does is it produces a new economic funding model for Israel that exceeds $3.5 billion or $3.8 billion annually, which they are already receiving in aid from the U.S. That's kind of why Netanyahu is going down this route. But if you understand the objectives that Benjamin Netanyahu has laid out for what he wants to do with his country, is these objectives are very, very different than the objectives that Donald Trump has laid out for the United States of America and through the National Defense Strategy and the National Intelligence Strategy that came out earlier this year. Netanyahu has came out and claimed that we want Israel to become a regional superpower and then a global superpower. Why is that kind of concerning? Well, Israel's not a very big country. It has a large economy. And yes, they are a very powerful country. They are now kind of a regional superpower, at least a competitive superpower. They couldn't sustain a 3 or 4 month war with Iran, but they could absolutely hold their own against many other nations, probably not Turkey or something like that. But in order for Israel to become a regional superpower, they have to have resource allocation and various different corridor controls. They have to control the supply chain as well as the oil flow and oil resources within the Middle East. This was one of their big plans about going into Iran. What Benjamin Netanyahu's primary objective was in Iran was to go and take their oil. steal their oil, run it through a pipeline that runs 3,000 miles all the way through Israel into the Mediterranean and offload it. And they get to collect all the fees and all the processing taxes and all that great stuff, but they controlled it. That over time would rise Israel to a global superpower. And this was the real goal of what Benjamin Netanyahu has laid out, his objective of what they want to do. Now, at the same time, you have Israel going out into southern Lebanon, which is now looking more like a genocide. Donald Trump said no on Gaza, no on the West Bank. And now they begin to pull out. Yeah, they still bomb it every once in a while. But now what are they doing? They're going in and producing a genocide in southern Lebanon. Why? Because all of these countries are part of the Greater Israel theory. Greater Israel theory, expanding the Israel's territory back to that which was proclaimed through biblical times. Now, I think that part of the objective, when you start to look at a regional and global superpower, is also the securing of the land of biblical times, of pre-biblical or biblical Israel, is getting that back is part of that objective. So I think that's why all of this is happening simultaneously. Is it going to happen? Well, the National Defense Authorization Act is probably going to pass with ease. And that's a fucking very scary, sad thing that could happen, because that cross collaboration between Israeli and U.S. intelligence and the military industrial complexes, that could have significant impacts on our allies across the world, as well as our own national security. Now, someone said to me the other day, they said, yeah, but Josh, you know what? Israel already does pro bono work directly in the United States of America for cybersecurity and for defense work. And they're already inside of our dams and our water treatment facilities. And they're already inside of our electric grid doing free cyber work. And the guy who owns that company, which is a nonprofit, is actually the former head of Mossad cyber intelligence. And I'm like, yeah, but now this is directed through congressional funding. That's a problem. So what I would say is we have to ensure that these things get removed from the National Defense Authorization Act. And whether you love them or hate them, Tom Massey yesterday tried to remove these things from the National Defense Authorization Act, and he was denied within committee. Man, I guess I'm really tired today. I am. I'm kind of tired. Being like, oh, Josh, you tired. You look tired. I am pretty tired. I didn't get much sleep. I had to take my cat to the veterinarian today. He got in a fight and got bit in the mouth right there. So he got like a big old welt, which is just an abscess that like blew up. So I was taking care of him, and then I had to take him to the vet. So I had to get up really early because that was the only time they could get me in. All right. JD Vance on the communist takeover of the United States of America. I told you we were going to talk about communism.
The direction the Democrats are headed, and it is communism, Laura. This is not, this is not raising taxes a little bit, however much we might disagree with that. This is abolishing the police. This is let criminals run amok in your cities. This is flood your country with low-wage third world immigrants. And importantly, it's confiscating wealth, not because we want to make anybody's life better, but purely out of resentment, out of an attack on the people who have that wealth to begin with. It really is something we haven't seen in the United States of America in the history of our politics. And Laura, I think that it actually is a consequence of the fact that the Democrat Party has become run by the universities and by the professors. This is not working class union Democrats. This is not socially conservative people who just want a fair shake at life. This is fundamentally a view that the United States is an evil country that must be dismantled from the ground and then built back up. That's communism at its core, and you see more and more momentum in that direction from the Democrat.
Okay, one interesting part that J.D. Vance said there. He says this is the Democrat Party of universities and their left-leaning professors. Now, this is very interesting because if you go back to the 1990s and you listen to Yuri Bezmenov, when he talks about this was a Soviet dissenter journalist who came over to Canada, eventually was killed, who sat down with I think it was like a 3-hour discussion. And one of the things that he discusses is the tools that the Soviets, the communists, will utilize to infiltrate the United States of America. And he said they are already in your universities and your schools because they understand that in order to implement this, it is a long game played through generations. How did the Chinese, how did Mao do it? He did it through the university, through the professors, and then through the student bodies. He did it through the generational gaps. And this is what J.D. Vance is pointing out. It's the teachers in the universities who have basically derived the modern day Democrat Party, which is nothing more than communism. A sense of entitlement. The United States is inherently evil. It needs to be dismantled and destroyed. And we need to give another government a chance. Unfortunately for them motherfuckers, the United States Constitution says that we can only have a Republican form of government. But I don't think they understand even what that means. All right, here we go.
Neville Singham is an open,
another muted tab, Josh.
He absolutely does not like what this country. Neville Singham is an open, self-declared Maoist. He absolutely does not like what this country stands for. What they're attempting to do is, if they can sow enough discord here and back elected officials, especially that support these ideologies that would essentially put the United States as number 2 in the global order, it is my opinion and belief that he is working on behalf of the Chinese government to essentially break America. I'd say that he's probably number 1 big fish that we have in regards to who's responsible for a lot of the divide in this country, and it's going back all the way to the CCP. Singham he actually lives in China a majority of the year, did not respond to Congress's request to have him to come in, so we did ask Bassett to freeze assets. The Department of Justice has a very easy layup here. They could actually bring charges against him.
That's Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna on this program with me back in September, sounding the alarm on the alleged financial crimes of technology tycoon Neville Roy Singham and his role in funding Marxist, socialist, and communist groups here in America. Yesterday, the DOJ launched a grand jury probe into Singham following a letter sent by the House Oversight Committee. Join me.
So, what have we learned? That is just one billionaire out of many who are within this ideology. Now, we can say that it derives from China, that it's Chinese influence or Maoist ideals that are bringing this about. And I think that that is a part of it, a large part of it. But I think that core fundamentally, this goes back much, much further. This goes back all the way to the early 1900s. Yes, it does. My good friend David Whitehead had a great post on his Facebook today. It's his personal Facebook, I think. But I went ahead and reposted it on my X, and I want to read it to you real quick. It's actually, I didn't have this up originally because I didn't plan on reading it, but I am going to put it up here. And this ideology actually spans further back than this. He says, both could be described as early color revolutions, that is, foreign-sponsored coups masquerading as spontaneous people's uprisings. Richard further explains why Lord Alfred Milner, the man most directly and personally responsible for bringing down the Tsar, praised socialism as the greatest secret weapon of the British Empire. Now, many of these people, these were Fabians from the Fabian Society. So, Fabian Society came about late 19th century, early 20th century. And it came about 50 years after a time when the establishment of various different doctrines of the occult were hijacked by socialism and Marxist ideologies. You can even go back as far as the 1850s, socialist communist revolutions throughout Europe. Did you know that Europe was toppled and there was riots in the streets within the 1850s trying to take over and overthrow the governments with socialism and communism? Go look it up, the 1850s communist or socialist revolution in Europe. This is where much of that began to kind of merge with various different secret societies and the dark occult perspectives, because communism itself is a derivation of the dark occult. You go back to the fundamentals of Zionism, which predate the 1870s. This actually goes back to 1666 with Zabbatai Zevi. Sabbatai Zebi, proclaimed to be the Jewish Messiah, went out there, had millions upon millions of followers, had to convert to Islam through the Ottoman Empire. He goes away. His followers still worship him as the Jewish Messiah. Jacob Franks comes in, him and his daughter. He proclaims his daughter to be the reincarnated Sabbatai Zebi. He gets millions of followers behind this. This is where you get Franksism that comes about from all of this. And then where does Joseph Franks move? He moves to Hamburg, Germany. Bavaria and Hamburg, Germany is where he lives between. And who's his neighbor? A guy by the name of Adam Weishaupt. Adam Weishaupt is friends with another guy by the name of Amschel Rothschild. And they start to converge on these ideals, converging various different ritualistic Kabbalah ideologies into a structured dark secret society known as the Order of the Illuminati, which then moves from there and begins infiltrating overt and covert societies around the world, including the Freemasons, so forth. This spawns into the early 1800s when Marx goes out there and produces the Communist Manifesto. From there, you have the first trial test runs to overthrow governments in the 1850s. They regroup and reorganize in the various different public sects. This is kind of like the first integration of think tanks and NGOs between 1860 and 1890. And this is what drives the Fabians, which then many of the members of the Fabians were members of the Club of Rome. And the Club of Rome is the precursors to the Trilateral Commission and the Council of Foreign Relations. I mean, this is where all this stuff kind of delineates from when you start to look at it. And it comes about from these various radical ideologies and how the dark occult was managed for millennia. The dark occult is managed through a communist or a socialist infrastructure. So crazy that we're having these discussions today, especially after the 20th century, where over 600 million people on this planet were slaughtered at the hands of communists. But people are fucking stupid. What are you going to do? I swear, I got to stop swearing. That's what I got to stop swearing, don't I? I'm sorry. I like dropping F-bombs. Oh, this is good. Did the Trump administration, Judge Alito, just set up the SCOTUS leaker? This is good. NPR broke an article today. Justice Samuel Alito, who wrote the Supreme Court's opinion reversing Roe v. Wade, is retiring, the court announced Tuesday. Guess what? They retracted it. John said here, NPR broke a story that Justice Alito was retiring. The story claimed it was a court who announced it. They immediately retracted the story, saying it hasn't been announced. They're not jumping the gun. What this was a setup. This was a leak operation to find the Supreme Court leaker. They gave various different information to various different people. Hey, Clarence Thomas is retiring. Hey, Alito's retiring. Hey, John Roberts is retiring. And the person they give it to goes to the news media and says that Alito's retiring. They know exactly who that person is. My suspicions are someone's going to get arrested in the next few days pertaining to being the SCOTUS leaker. Today, the Supreme Court ruled that political parties can contribute unlimited coordinated funding to candidates from political parties. This is from my buddy CanCon Brian over there. This is in addition to Citizens United, which allows corporations to donate unlimited amounts to super PACs, diluting the crap out of the individual who isn't even multi-billion-dollar corporation. But don't worry, SCOTUS made sure that individual contributions remain capped and strictly regulated. Corporations and political parties are greater than the American citizens. Instead of getting money out of politics, they allowed billions to now be injected into it. That was a fucking horrible decision that nobody's talking about. The big one today was the birthright citizenship. We're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But I want to go back to yesterday. So the Supreme Court yesterday ruled that ballots that are postmarked or sent in prior to Election Day can be counted after Election Day. That the Election Day is just the recipient of the ballot, as in that ballots must be received on election day, and that or postmarked before or on election day, and that suffices. I don't like this. Now, what does this mean? It means that we have the Save America Act, which can be passed right now by the Senate if they wanted to. It's not going to happen. The Save America Act is not going to happen. And I believe Donald Trump doesn't want it to happen. Now, why wouldn't Donald Trump want it to happen? Because even if the Save America Act was passed and signed into law by President Trump, it would not be implemented statewide before the midterm elections. That's a problem because they are absolutely going to steal the midterm elections. What option does that leave? Well, myself and Alpha Warrior have been talking about this for a very long time. And one of the things we told you, people are saying, hey, when's martial law coming? We said martial law is going to come around the time of the midterms. Why? Because there's going to be a national emergency declared on the midterm elections. Listen to that.
So 4 months now, I've been screaming on TV, on radio, on podcasts, a national security emergency on elections. Forget the SAVE Act. The Senate is not going to pass it. We have rhinos in the Senate. You can't get 50 votes. If you could get 50 votes plus the vice president, you'd still need to suspend the filibuster. You'd need a talking filibuster. They don't have the votes to do that either. You're just pounding sand. All these people I keep saying, SAVE Act, SAVE Act, Save America Act. Even President Trump, I'm telling you, you're not going to get the SAVE Act. And even if you did, this is the key point, because I love the SAVE Act. I would do anything to get the SAVE Act. But if you did somehow, by a miracle of God, by Houdini, by David Copperfield, pull a rabbit out of a hat, and at the last minute get the SAVE Act passed by the Senate, you would then get Mark Elias and his Democrat communist traitor lawyer team to immediately sue in court, and immediately courts would freeze it, and it would never be in place by the midterms. It would take a year or longer to litigate in court. So all the people screaming about the SAVE Act, I'm on their side, but they're in a fantasy, Steve, because the minute it's passed, it's challenged in court, and it's never going to be in effect for the midterms. So you're just blowing smoke right now. No one's going to pass it. But this is, my idea is the SAVE Act on steroids, Trump style. This is Trump style. This is a national security emergency for elections, just like the national security emergency for the border that I invented out of whole cloth. I mean, I just came up with it. I woke up from sleep one day and I said, this is a good idea. And then I was the lead speaker at the Wyoming GOP annual dinner in 2019. And I told him my idea for a national security emergency at the border. I said, if you agree with this idea, clap, let me know. I got a standing ovation. 500 people in the room stood up and went wild for it. So that's when I pitched it to Trump. I'm telling you, I've got it again. This is the solution. National security emergency for elections that can't be overturned, unlike the SAVE Act, which could be challenged in court and frozen until it's decided by the Supreme Court. And as you found out today, you don't even know if you're going to win in the Supreme Court a year from now or 2 years from now. It will not help the midterm. Stop talking about the SAVE Act and do a national security emergency for elections, which is the SAVE Act, which contains everything that's in the SAVE Act, Steve, and more, more.
What is there was clearly a national security issue at the border in 2019, 2010, and President Trump has stopped that in his second term. What is the national security emergency you predicate this on? And then what is actually in the executive order that makes sure that we have a free and fair election in November, sir?
So number one, the number one thing you predicate it on is foreign interference in U.S. elections. And there's two parts to that. Number one, illegal aliens are voting all over the United States. We all know it. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. The only reason we ever lose in Nevada, everyone I know here, it's a very red Republican state, but it's a borderline purple state. Thank God we do have a Republican governor now, and a Republican lieutenant governor, and a Republican controller, and Trump won Nevada in the last round in 2024. So we're making some headway because every Republican in California is moving here. They're running for their lives and moving to Las Vegas. So we're becoming more Republican. But we've been losing elections because...
Okay. I don't listen to Wayne Allen Root. I didn't listen to that clip before other than just the first 30 seconds. he's been saying the same damn thing that me and Alpha have been saying. The Save America Act does not matter. Even if it did get passed, there's going to be no implementation before the midterms. What does that mean? That it's useless to fight against the midterms. That's why Donald Trump needs a national emergency on election integrity and election infrastructure. 2 parts, what he was about to say. Integrity is illegals voting in the elections, fake voter rolls. In infrastructure is foreign adversary control over our elections. What are the prerequisites that Donald Trump needs? He needs the report from ODNI. He needs the report from ODNI when they went out there and they subpoenaed Dominion vices from Puerto Rico. They looked into them and found foreign adversaries had penetrated our Dominion voting machines. We have live testimony directly from Coomer over at Dominion Voting Machine stating that, yes, foreign adversaries, countries like Serbia, Venezuela, had direct access to Dominion voting machines, to the EMS systems, where we have information pertaining to Georgia, Arizona, showing clear levels of fraud and foreign adversary infiltration. That is the prerequisite that Donald Trump needs in a nice, pretty red folder given to him saying, this is our assessment. Yes, it's real. China, Venezuela, Ukraine, Cuba, all of them had a part in stealing the 2020 election, as well as these NGOs who funded all of these various different subgroups that went out there and got people to register for voting and did ballot harvesting and dumped thousands upon thousands of mail-in ballots in these ballot drop boxes. Once you have that, Donald Trump can come out and declare a national emergency on election integrity and infrastructure. What would that look like? It would look like Donald Trump coming out, declaring the national emergency because he has a legitimate piece of evidence of foreign adversary and internal infiltration. That's A. B, he can go in there and state the Save America Act in the National Emergency Declaration for the rules from the federal government to conduct a new election within each state. Maintain paper ballots. Voter rolls must be cleared prior to election time frame. Only citizens can vote. Voter ID. All of these things can be implemented in that. What does that do? It puts states on notice that they're going to get sued by the federal government in a time of national emergency, which then also becomes a national security concern. If states begin to withhold information and evidence from the federal government pertaining to a national emergency declaration, that is a federal crime. And the governors and secretary of states can be indicted federally because of that. This is why it's so important that we have a national emergency on election integrity and infrastructure. Now, is the military martial law going to be declared? I think that the Democrats will rally up their boys. They will go to the streets. They will burn down Minneapolis and other cities. I think that that would happen in this case because they realize that there is going to be no chance that they can actually steal the election, which then would cause various different types of National Guard patrols in and around election stations. But that can only happen if the Insurrection Act is brought about, and there has to be a true, real insurrection occurring for that to actually occur. Now, someone asked in the chat, Josh, do you think the midterm elections are actually going to happen? Yes, I do think that the midterm elections are actually going to happen. Do I think that there's still going to be a red wave in the midterm elections? Yes, I do believe that there's going to be a red wave in the midterm elections. You start to incorporate all of this, what I'm talking about here with the national emergency, as well as what the Postmaster General of the United States Postal Service has recently came out and stated, that once Donald Trump declares that national emergency, he basically codifies that the United States Postal Service must have on file in the voter roll, state voter rolls, every single registered voter that has a cross-correlated barcode for their ballot, a 1-to-1 match prior to ballots being sent out, or ballots will be rejected and not be sent out, of which the United States Postal Service will track every single ballot, who it goes to, how it comes back. That's what I see coming. All right, the Supreme Court rules in favor of state laws prohibiting biological males from participating in girls' sports. Great. They upheld the 10th Amendment. So it's a win. It's a good win, but it's just upholding the 10th Amendment. The federal government has no power or authority to state whether a man can compete in a woman's sport. Where in the Constitution, in Article 1 or Article 2 powers, does it give that to the Congress or to the president? It doesn't. Therefore, that is inherent within the states. If states want to say they can do it, then states can say they can do it. All right, let's get into birthright citizenship. Justice Alito is absolutely fuming over SCOTUS giving the green light to birthright citizenship. Let's listen to this short little clip right here of Justice Alito discussing this. And I do realize my time. I only have a half an hour left.
Back to Shannon, who's got more yet again. Shannon.
All right, this comes from Justice Alito, who brought this up during the arguments. This is his separate dissent. He said the court's interpretation also has national security implications. Suppose that a person's only connection to this country is that he was born here to a mother who was present just long enough to give birth and then quickly return to her native country. Suppose that country is a strategic adversary or enemy of the United States. Suppose the child never visited the United States while growing up and was inculcated with hatred of this country. According to this court now, that person is a citizen of the United States. He can enter and leave the country as he pleases. He can travel the world on a United States passport. Even if he plots to harm this country, he cannot be deprived of his status as a citizen, at least under current precedent. He goes on to say that this decision today also provides a powerful incentive to enter or remain in this country illegally. He goes on to say, in my judgment, the court has made a mistake that will seriously affect the country's future. So
he's absolutely right. There's a lot of problems with the ruling today. Donald Trump came out and said, I would like to congratulate President Xi and the great country of China on their massive birthright citizenship win. Why is that so important? Hold on, let me pull this up. Yes, for everybody on Rumble can hear these clips before they're being played, although I can't hear where it's at in the clip, and I need to hear the clip as well. So it's actually just on my computer.
Except I think it's very bad for our nation. We're the only nation that does it. No other nation does that birthright citizenship. No, not even close. Some did it, they ended it. It's tremendously destructive. It's extremely costly. I don't know, it's up to them. But in terms of for the good of the country, it'd be great if they didn't allow it. It would be great, but I can't tell you. The Slaughter case was the big case today. That was really a big case because it gave strength to presidents and strength to the presidency, a very important case. It's been going on for almost 100 years, think of that, and this was the ruling that really topped everything by a lot today, yeah.
So that was yesterday. He was talking about the Slaughter case there. But President Trump, I'd like to congratulate President Xi and the great country of China on their massive birthright citizenship win. And China has been doing this for a while. There's actually tourist companies out there that bring Chinese and Indian families over specifically to have children in the United States of America and then take them back. That's fucked up. That's not supposed to happen in this country. Now, everybody probably saw this image floating around, or this quip of an image floating around pertaining to this. And yes, this was deliberated within the decision. And this is Congressman Howard, who actually wrote the 14th Amendment. And one of the things that he says, I regard as the law of the land already, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and national law a citizen of the United States. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons. So the interpretations of this assessment is what the SCOTUS actually deliberated. Now, I know what people are saying is like, he just said right there, no, but you have to understand the context of what he was saying. When he says include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to families of ambassadors. The foreigners and aliens are the ones pertaining to the ambassadors. So he's saying that when ambassadors have family here, and if they are foreigners who are just here visiting, or they're aliens here in our country, foreigners and aliens, that if they're in our country, they do not have the right to the 14th Amendment. And that actually still stands. But then he says, but will include every other class of persons. Not only that, is you got to remember one important thing, and that's kind of the part of the ruling today, which I disagree with. It's not the parents that this ruling was for. It's the children. See, if it's the parents, they don't have an internal right to U.S. citizenship just because they had a kid here. That was DACA, right? But what he's saying is that if a child is born in the United States of America, it has been the law of the land since the inception of the 14th Amendment that that child is an American citizen. That's it. That's how the interpretation goes. I disagree with the assessment. I disagree with the interpretation. That's very broad, and it gives a whole perspective of how countries can infiltrate our country. Now, what's interesting, Donald Trump came out earlier and said the Supreme Court upheld birthright citizenship, which is too bad for our country, but we can easily make it up in Congress through legislation with the support of the president that has now been determined during this process. No long and unwieldy constitutional amendment is necessary. Congress should start today to work on ending expensive and unfair to our country birthright citizenship. They'll have my complete and total support. So what is he talking about in the sense of legislation? You can't necessarily go out there and produce legislation that goes against the Constitution. So the Supreme Court today ruled that any child from anybody that is born in the United States is a United States citizen. What you now do is you have to limit the people that come into this country. Illegal aliens, which the Trump administration has already been doing. And second is green card holders or visa holders. And this is where it's going to get very scrutinized and where Congress has a lot of authority on this matter. Basically, is Congress is going to have the capability to shut down tourist visas for birthright citizenship. They'll have the right to make a law to investigate these companies, kick them out of our country, or arrest these people, as well as remove people who are here specifically for those purposes, remove them from our country. And this is where the idea of what he's talking about actually comes about. If you cannot stop a child, if you cannot stop that child from becoming an American citizen, then you have to limit the amount of people that actually have a child in this country, quote unquote, illegally. And that's primarily China is what they're talking about. Vice President Vance cut straight to the heart of the birthright citizen debate, the loophole. He pointed to the Supreme Court's 5-4 decision, arguing that the issue is far weaker than Democrats and legal analysts expected. The concept of birthright citizenship, which is an absurdity to the 14th Amendment, is hanging by a thread. The sharpest point, illegal immigration should not be rewarded with automatic citizenship just because someone has a child inside the United States. He points out that bad legal precedents have been reversed before, and this might be the next one. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens next. One interesting part, and I know everybody's talking about Amy Coney Barrett, Supreme Court justices have earned millions of dollars from book payments, according to their financial disclosures. Remember, book deals actually matter. I want to talk a little bit about the tech stocks. I know someone sent me an email on this earlier saying I was wrong, but I'm not wrong. I don't think we're going to have a massive red day collapse, Black Monday, none of this shit. But if you go on to X, you'll start seeing it. The entire bull market that we are in right now, skyrocketing tech stocks, AI stocks, cryptocurrency, which was up over 100,000 Bitcoin, all of this. The reason Bitcoin is down to where it's at right now is energy and the yen carry trade. But all of this is funded by the Japanese yen. I've had multiple different people reach out to me telling me how damn right I am on this, and they can't really say anything. So the Japanese yen is now weakened beyond the 162 level against the U.S. dollar for the first time since Ronald Reagan was president. We are coming to a point where the Bank of Japan is going to have to intervene. What does that mean? It means raising rates. Once they raise those rates, those loans from the Japanese yen through the margin loans will get called, will get margin called, and they will have to sell off Asian and U.S. tech stocks. And when that happens, you're going to see the bubble begin to burst. So why is that important? Because we're in a transitional point right now where everything is moving away from this old school economic system and more towards this modernized 21st century economic system that's going to have a word that we call tokenization at its core. JP Morgan just admitted crypto is becoming the core of the new financial systems. The bank says stablecoins, tokenization, and programmable money are now moving directly into the mainstream finance and would completely transform payments and markets. Well, they did say programmable money. I know they did. Remember, I've talked about this before. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs will have programmable money within their networks. But this is the Great Reset. I agree. But there's other parts that we have to see here. Excuse me. Number one is that crypto has an enaction of decentralization that is so critically important to understand. Cryptocurrency has decentralized frameworks. People are sending me, like, because I'm an XRP doomer. I'm against XRP. People are sending me the XRP article that XRP is going to launch a new stablecoin, OUSD, on the XRP ledger. I said, great, fantastic. And they're like, oh my God, I told you. Told me what? XRP is going to go to $10,000. Let me help people on that. The XRP coin is not going to derive any value from stablecoin transactions. The stablecoin transactions are through the XRP ledger and will be mitigated through their own coin network. There's no interoperability needed. I am a straight shooter, my friend. I try. I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to give some final thoughts before we jump over to DEF CON here. I do have a few more stories, so don't go anywhere. I want to take 60 seconds to shout out a brand that supported creators on Rumble for a while. That's Emerald Med. They make CBD products from hemp, but there's a thing that you may not know. Instead of using one crop, they actually use 3 different hemp strains because no one strain contains every compound they wanted. They combine hot plus cold process extracts, since some hemp compounds are activated by heat while others are damaged by it. On top of that, they use raw extracts to preserve minor compounds, trace minerals, and micronutrients that are typically lost. Their CBD oil alone has 6 to 9 raw batches blended into it. Instead of 1 to 10 compounds, they have up to 50 plus compounds. A lot of brands talk about freedom and wave the flag only when it's trendy. Emerald Med is using their company to fight the people's medical freedoms during COVID while getting bank accounts shut down plus tires slashed for it. They put money every year into fighting laws that limit access to health alternatives. They often say they want to make products so effective that Helen Keller can see the difference. Nothing is a cure-all, but it's worth a try. Maybe they can help you feel 30%, 60%, or even 80% better. Maybe it's enough to help support you sleeping as well. Maybe it gives you a few hours a day of not feeling awful. Maybe it's enough to be able to do things like you used to. They're celebrating America's 250th birthday, and you can click below or scan the QR code on Rumble right now to try them at a discount today. Check them out. Absolutely. We love us some Emerald Med. And then also just a shout out to redpills.tv. If you guys want to go on over to our website, redpills.tv, multiple different ways to support us directly over there, redpills.tv. There's a lot of news coming out right now in the UFO UAP communities. A lot of it's very interesting. A lot of it is very concerning. Some of it's kind of scary. I want you to know that Congress is being briefed, quote unquote, by all types of people. People who are, disinformation agents, people within the intelligence community, people within these actual projects, just eyewitnesses, other people who might be schizophrenics making shit up. They're getting all levels of information within this. Now, in the legitimate aspect of the files, one of the things that we're realizing is that what we used to believe to be separate in the context of UFOs and paranormal are not. That at the heart and root of all of this stuff, from poltergeist to ghosts to interdimensionality of beings, to demons and angels and all of this stuff, all the way over to extraterrestrials and non-human biologics, that they're all just expressions of consciousness. And that consciousness becomes the core of all of it. Once you begin to understand that, you begin to see what I realized about well over a decade ago. That the biggest secret that's been hidden from us is that we ourselves are way more powerful than anybody could ever imagine. And I think that that is one of the reasons why this stuff has been hidden from us. Not that it's scary or mysterious or that it sheds light on reality, but for the mere fact that once this information is out there, it begins to wake up the masses that they are much more than they ever thought they were. That's a mic drop. I like that one. Josh spelled redpills. Redpills.tv. redpills.tv. Thank you. I'm tired. I only got like 2 hours of sleep last night. I was up late working and stuff, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm going to head over to DEFCON 0 for everybody on Rumble. Don't worry. I'm going to go ahead and raid you over there. But yeah, we're going to head over to DEFCON 0. I'll see everybody in about 15 minutes from now over on DEFCON. Hope you guys all have a great night. No show tomorrow, but I'll be back with you on Thursday night. And that will be from Rochester, New York area. I'll be in Rush, New York. So I'll be in Rush, New York, not tomorrow night, Thursday night. So hopefully you guys can join me over there Thursday night during the Daily Dose and then during the OG show. Just a warning, it might just be the OG show on Thursday night, but we're going to try to do both shows. It just depends on family coordination and all of that. Either way, I'll see you Thursday night. And so I'll leave you with this kick-ass Guardians of Truth song, There Was a Time. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. See you next time.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns into silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Voice still calls, we the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil under, patriots rise. We are one, land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people,
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time is near, the great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone, patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave, no more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time, now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!